Oh, there we go. It's the Deacon Talks Raw. I am your host, Kung Fu CJ, and we got something. I'm doing a short show today, surrounded by history, what the founding fathers meant, um, some Black history, um, just to educate some people because they just don't know. So I'm gonna get started real quick with my first video about Democrats. Been a registered Republican since I was 18 years old. I voted for one Democrat ever in my life. He's dead now, so it is what it is. However, there are some good Democrats out there. The problem is right now is they're letting progressives overrun their party. Check this out.
By about 1818, the Democrat Party, which was founded in 1792, had become the majority party of Congress. And starting in 1820, they started repealing those early anti-slavery laws. So 1820, you have the first real institutional step in Congress to promote slavery. Over the next 30 years, the Democrats continued to have control of Congress and pass law after law after law. The culmination of that came in 1850 with the Fugitive Slave Law. The Fugitive Slave Law was a response to the 1808 congressional repeal of the slave trade. Under the Fugitive Slave Law that the Democrats passed in 1850, if you were accused of being a slave, you could have been a free black all your life, you could have been voting in every election, but if you're accused of being a slave, number one, you lose your right to representation with an attorney. Number two, you lose your right to trial by jury. Number three, you lose your right of habeas corpus. All due process rights in the Constitution have now been set aside.
Wow. That was from Wall Builders. I'm going to be playing a lot of their David Barton, Tim Barton stuff, mainly because they have over 200,000 original documents, copies of original documents in reference to American history and everything. And so I've been listening to David Barton for a very long time. He has the receipts, no doubt about it. He has the receipts. Um, what people don't know is like the people don't know that blacks own slaves here in America. They really don't know that blacks actually, and they were richer than white folks. They was richer than white slave owners. Check this video out.
What if I told you that the truth about history ain't quite what we was told? What if I told you that one of the richest slave owners ever was black? Meet Antoine Dubuclet Jr. Born a free man of color near Baton Rouge, he was the son of two free parents, Antoine Dubuclet Sr. and Rosie Belly. When his daddy passed away, his mama moved to New Orleans with his siblings, and he took over his father's responsibilities, basically becoming the man of the house and assisting in managing the plantation, which held more than 70 slaves. In the mid-1830s, he married a wealthy free woman of color who already owned a plantation with 44 slaves and had 9 kids. After she passed in 1852, his successful management of both plantations allowed him to buy more properties, which included a plantation on the west bank of the Mississippi, upriver from New Orleans. He later remarried and
Wow. That was in New Orleans. And a lot of people don't understand that most of the blacks that fought for the Confederacy came from New Orleans. There were black slave owners that wanted to keep, slaves. They really did. And so they fought with the Confederacy to try to keep slavery going. It's amazing. Here goes some more history. Because not just, I don't want to talk completely about slavery. Let's talk about socialism and communism and how it doesn't work. Let's start right here.
So socialism puts everybody equal, treats everybody the same, regardless of your skill, regardless of how hard you work. You reward the incompetent, you penalize the overproductive. But the free market system that came out of the Bible says, you know what, if you produce a lot, you should get a lot. If you're lazy, you shouldn't get anything. And that gives you an incentive to be a good producer. So that's what socialism is. That's how America got away from socialism. And by the way, they had the same experience in Jamestown 13 years earlier in 1607 when they started with socialism. And they got so lazy that they entered into a starving period where the 2/3 of the people starved to death because they were too lazy to work. So that's socialism. It didn't work in Virginia. It didn't work in Massachusetts. We got away from it. That's where the free market system came to America. That's why socialism is bad. It never works.
So America's already tried, or the settlers they had already tried socialism. It don't work. It's never worked. And the reason why is because it creates lazy people. And if you look at our school system today, they're not teaching the children work ethic. There's no work ethic unless you're an athlete. If you're an athlete, you have to learn work ethic. Why? Because you want to be better, you want to get better. But as far as those who don't want to be athletes, there's no work ethic for them to be the smartest or to be the greatest in whatever they do in school. And that's a problem because they are the future. Here's another one. Here's another one right here. Check this out.
As we honor America's founding fathers leading up to the nation's 250th anniversary, wallbuilders.com today is spotlighting Declaration signer Richard Stockton. His story of faith, service, and sacrifice embodies the steep price paid for our liberties. From a prominent family, he graduated from the College of New Jersey, now Princeton, at 17 and became a skilled lawyer. He married Annis Boudinot, raising 6 children at their Morven estate. As tensions with Britain grew, Stockton's resolve strengthened. He boldly signed the Declaration, pledging his
life, fortune, and sacred honor.
That dedication was tested when British forces captured him in late 1776. Imprisoned in a New York City jail, Stockton endured starvation and abuse. Released the following year, his health never recovered from imprisonment, and he died in 1781. Stockton's story reminds us that freedom's cost was personal and profound. At Wall Builders, we're dedicated to preserving these historical stories to inspire future generations.
Now, our founding fathers, a lot of people, they don't know the history, like, but those that signed the Declaration of Independence, they put a target on their backs, and the British came for them. And when they came for them, they arrested them, they put them in jail. Some were killed. They took their property and everything. Why? Because you're not going to tax me and I not have a say so in anything. And that's how the founders felt. Many of the northern founders who were governors of their states, they petitioned the king to end slavery in their states, and the king denied them. So once they signed the Declaration of Independence, it was like, well, we're our own independent, colony now. We can free our slaves if we want to. We can outlaw slavery. And that's what they did from Delaware all the way to Maine. And so people don't know this history. But the British got upset and they says, you know what, we got to go over there and get them back in line. And you had farmers and shopkeepers defend the Declaration of Independence. They weren't soldiers. Britain had the greatest army on the planet at the time, but with God's help, these shopkeepers and farmers won. They won their independence. Let's talk about Marxism a little bit.
As a matter of fact, one final picture I'll show you on this. You've probably seen the picture of George Washington crossing the Delaware. That's not an American painting, and it wasn't done for Americans. This was a painting that was painted in Germany, and it was done for the Germans. And it was painted shortly after Marx came out with his book, Das Kapital, and he goes through and lays out Marxism. And Marxism is all about breaking people into groups and having those groups fight each other. So we've gone through this in America. We tried to make it genders, and then we tried to make it age stuff, and now we've made it race stuff. And Marxism, they don't care what groups it is. They just always need groups fighting because they think it's like being a boxer. They think that the more you fight, the stronger you get, and you can have another fight and get stronger. And so the more you're fighting, the stronger you get. Jesus has a different way. He says a house divided won't stand. You can't be broken up and having those fights. It just won't last. And so the Marxist way is you need more fights. The more fights you have, the stronger you'll be, which maybe if you're a boxer, that's true. But when you're running a nation, that's not true. And so what was happening was Germany was starting to get all these factions and all these groups fighting one another. And the painter in Germany painted this to say, look, we need to be like America. He said, in America, everybody's in the same boat. I mean, he says, you got a woman right here, and you've got a black man right over here, and you've got a Scottish man here, and you have immigrants here, and you have businessmen back here, and you've got a trapper. He said, in America, everybody's in the same boat. That's the way it should be here in Germany. This was a painting done for Germany to show them how it was in America, and that's what they needed to do over there. So this is not a patriotic painting of Washington crossing the Delaware. It is, but it's to show people we're all in the same boat together. We need to be like the Americans.
I never knew that that wasn't an American painting. That was somebody from Europe trying to show them we don't need to be divided, because right now that's what we are. We are divided. And so he made the painting showing how America was together. And when people came to America, they came up north, and they seen whites and blacks and women and other immigrants working together, commingling. And this is something in history that people just don't talk about. They don't say anything about it. And the reason why is because they want to keep us divided. Think about this. It's only Democrats that want to remove all of the statues of Confederates in the South. Republicans are like, leave the statues because that's history. And so when people ask about the statues, the parents can teach their children, this is what happened at the beginning of our founding, or in the middle of at a certain point in time in the country where we had to come together to end this and to end that, But if you remove the statues, there's no conversation. And then Democrats, they win. Um, they win. And the reason why they win is because um, we don't learn their history. Black people are in the dark. Because if they knew the Democrat history, when it comes down to them, black community, they would not vote Democrat. Hey, Deb, Sugar Shane, thanks for coming through. Brandy, I see you guys. This is history. This is what they're not teaching in schools. This is AP history. Check this out.
We didn't mention Hitler, we didn't mention the Nazis, and we didn't mention the Holocaust. All of this is AP history in 2014, 2015? Good question. What is in there? Let me show you. Here's an example of what's in there. It says, the decision to drop the atomic bomb raised questions about American values. Okay, you didn't have the Japanese, you didn't have the Germans, you only had the Americans, and we dropped an atomic bomb. Boy, are we the bad guys. So what happened? Raise questions about American. What are they talking about?
Wow. So in history class today, they only talk about the bad stuff that America does. When you teach history, you have to teach the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can't just teach one part. The only thing they teach now in history is the bad and the ugly of America. Yeah, they dropped the atomic bomb on Japan. Well, go through why they dropped the atomic bomb on Japan. Japan attacked us in Hawaii, and they continued to attack, coming all the way to the shores into California. And so, yes, before we dropped that bomb, there were 70 million pamphlets dropped over the areas that we dropped the two bombs in to let them know, hey, we about to decimate this area right here. You might want to skedaddle. And then when we dropped those bombs, there was minimal civilian casualties, but Japan gave up after that. Okay, this is what they don't want to tell you. This is what they hide from us all the time when it comes down to history. I'm gonna play some of David Barton's, his son Tim. What's this? This is quotes of the founders. Check this out.
Back in the 70s and 80s, before there's the internet, if you're reading an old document from a founding father, you're reading something from George Washington, and he has a quotation mark, and you want to know where that comes from, you had to go to the library. Now, fortunately, this was done by a professor who had a lot of grad students, and he said, hey, kids, here's your project. We're going to go to this side of the library, and everybody get a book and start reading until you find this quote. And this is what they did through 15,000 of the founding fathers' letters.
Think about this. I'm an old guy. I grew up in a household with two college graduates, multi degree graduates. And when I was a kid, they used to take me to the library with them. And so I read a lot. Because they would go to the library to do research papers and everything like that. And they would take their little nephew along with them, my uncle and my aunt. And that's what I did. The library had everything you needed in it. Now we have the internet, but half the time you can't trust the internet because you're on the internet, and they're like, you trying to research something on the internet, and you're like, is this true or is this? Can I get a? You have to go and go to another source to make sure what you're reading is accurate. I got books here in my library that don't have barcodes on them. That's how old they are. Some of George Washington's quotes that somebody had wrote down and put into a book. I got Thomas Jefferson's, the Thomas Jefferson Bible and things like that. People, people, when they talk about the Thomas Jefferson Bible, I asked them which one, because there's one that he had made for Indians, where he ripped out pages of the Bible and took them to a printing press and says, I want you to make me a Bible of these, which had all of Jesus's miracles in it and his teachings. And that Bible was made for the Native Americans to hand out to the Native Americans. Then there's the second one. They're really not Bibles. It's just Thomas Jefferson and his infinite wisdom. And so Thomas Jefferson, back then they took philosophy. And so Thomas Jefferson, in reading the Bible, realized that Jesus, the philosophy of Jesus was better than Socrates, Plato, and all those guys. And so he wrote down, he went to the Bible and wrote down all of the quotes of Jesus. And he went back to the printing press and had those things printed. and these and he called it the morals of Jesus. And this was given to every member of Congress back then. It was reprinted like 60, 70 years later, again to give to members of Congress. Why? Because if you read if you've read it, you'll realize that, okay, if I'm more like Jesus, then I won't be corrupt. I won't do things to harm our government or the people. You understand that the people are the kings and queens of the country, and all I am is a civil servant. And so it's amazing how we have grown away from our founders and what their intent was. People, I hear people say all the time, they created a secular country. And how come the Bible is quoted 14 times in the Declaration of Independence if they created a secular country? You know, it's quoted 12 times in the Bill of Rights. No, the founders and John Adams once was asked by a woman, what do we have? And John Adams said the Constitution was written for moral and religious people, period. But Thomas Jefferson, when asked, was like, what do we have? And he says, we have a republic if you can keep it. That's the reason why Democrats keep running around here yelling, we're a democracy, we're a democracy, we're a democracy. No, we're not. We're a constitutional republic, or as I say, a representative republic. We don't elect leaders, we elect representatives. We're the leaders. That's the reason why we vote, if you notice, every 2 years, because if people don't do what we want them to do, they need to be replaced. They need to go. And this is the reason why many cheat to stay in office, because they believe they have power. We have all the power as the people. Here's another quote from, here's another video from Tim.
They ended up finding 3,150 plus quotes, and they tracked them all back to the original source. They documented in this book the origins of American constitutionalism. Now, what is worth noting about this is they identified the most quoted individuals were people. Number one was Charles Montesquieu. He did the Spirit of the Laws. Number two was William Blackstone. He did the Commentaries on the Laws of England, very important for the legal structure in America.
Think about this. Think about this, the legal structure here in America. We have the right to face our accusers. Do you know in the UK, you don't have the right to face your accusers? Somebody can say you did something, and the government basically, the government will basically um, um, go with it, basically. Who said that? It don't matter who said it. You know, you got to defend yourself type of deal. It's amazing. In our form of government, you're innocent till proven guilty. But if you notice the judicial system around the world, you're guilty until proven innocent. You know, it's amazing. And so we have something unique here. We're the only country where Second Amendment is a right, God-given right. Rights are given by God, not the government. And so no other country has that type of right. You have to get 2/3 of the country to agree to remove the Second Amendment, which you'll never do. Same thing with the First Amendment. It's amazing how, you know, you go to other countries and you say, oh, freedom of speech is everywhere. No, it's not. In the UK, you can't pray outside of an abortion clinic, not even bow your head and pray in silence. You can't. It's against the law. But you could do it here. You know, I got one more clip I want to show. and this is about it's okay to be a Christian and be in politics. As we know, some of you all know that Crystal is running for office. Our founding fathers wanted God believing people as representatives in Congress, as representatives in the states. They wanted God fearing people there. And David Barton's going to let us know it is okay to be a Christian and be in politics.
I'm being sworn in, but I'm here because I read that book you did, America's Godly Heritage. And so it suddenly helped people understand it's okay for Christians to be involved in politics. And even backing up a bit before that, because one of the things that we made really clear with politics, even before that, one of the things we made really clear with the history we're putting out, like we did a little book called America's Godly Heritage. Back then we did these little short booklets. And it was that America was great when Christians were involved in politics. When you had Christian leaders as your president and Christian leaders as your governor and Christian leaders, and I don't like the term Christian anymore because, as you just pointed out, Christian can be anybody. I would now say biblical, having biblical people in there. And they make some of the best leaders because they understand economic principles, they understand moral principles, they understand international principles. I mean, all that's covered in scriptures. And so we started seeing more and more people run for office. And I remember in what was called the Republican Revolution of 1994, I was sitting up in the gallery when they're swearing in the first Republican Congress in over 40 years. Newt Gingrich is speaker, and I'm just sitting there, and these guys come upstairs and tap on me and say, "Hey, you don't know me, but I just got elected and I'm being sworn in, but I'm here because I read that book you did, America's Godly Heritage." And so it suddenly helped people understand it's okay for Christians to be involved in politics. And part of that, too, was here in Texas, we're the first state ever in history to elect 3 statewide black officials in the same election. But we did that because we worked in the churches, and we worked in church to understand you want godly people here. And so we saw a lot of that change. So that was kind of what was leading up to it. And then what happened is in the church community, well, a lot of the parishioners said, "Hey, I understand now." You had a lot of pastors say, "No, wait a minute, separation of church and state, you can't do this kind of thing." And, if the pastors don't understand government and don't understand what it is and don't understand that their people need to be involved, it's going to be hard. And what we noticed was that the way the media covers political people, you've got 435 members of Congress. Most people can name maybe 5.
Right.
And that's it. And they all
don't know who their own congressman is most of the time.
That's right. Yeah. But it's kind of the uniparty, They all think they're all the same, and they're not. And so if I could get pastors up here to meet some of these guys and to walk through the halls of Congress where the Capitol building used to be the largest church building in Washington, D.C. Every Sunday you went to church at the U.S. Capitol in the Hall of House of Representatives. Nobody knows that. Yeah. And so when pastors start saying that, wow, that's our heritage, and hey, that guy that just spoke to us, I've never seen him on the news before, but that's a really solid Christian congressman, and that connection, then you started having support from the pastors toward the elected officials, and then they start thinking, maybe we can do this with school board in our church.
Amen. This is what the founders wanted. 59 out of the 59 signers of the 56 out of the 56 signers of the Constitution, 29 had Bible or seminary degrees. And so, yes, this is what God wanted. This is what God wanted. The founders wanted. They wanted godly people in office. And when you don't have godly people in office, you have what we have right now. Okay. And so the beauty about our country is that we can get rid of people. We can get rid of people when they don't do what as we say. Hey, Diamond Dave's in the building. So I'm going to go ahead and be done. But remember, our history, our American history, says something different than what you're hearing on the news. And I'm probably going to do some more history stuff. But remember, I wanted to touch on a few topics today. This is the Deacon Talks. I'm Kung Fu CJ. And thank you all for coming by and listening to me ramble. God bless you. I got to catch a flight. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
At least internationally, travel to
London, Paris, Tokyo, Japan, go to New York, LA, Chi-Town.